Welcome to the junk shop. It's called Needful Things. High school jackets, baseball cards, sex with Stephen King. I am a devil I can find whatever you may want. If you'll do a prank for me, like maybe stab a dog, it's needful. Welcome to the Needful, the antique store Needful. Things. Ooh, I want to touch you where you pee.
Oh, that last bit was a new one.
Well, that's a different movie. It's a Philip Seymour Hoffman movie, isn't it? Where he says that. I want to touch you where you pee.
Welcome back.
Our
cocksters. This is Kings of King. That was a beautiful song.
Wes Anderson and P.T. Anderson are dead.
Yeah. We have transitioned
killed them
on the Small Beans Network back to Kings of King, as we do with our deep dive series. So this is the next leg of the journey. I'm here for it.
Yeah, that's Abe. I'm Michael, and we thought, what better thing to blast back with than 1993's Needful Things? What better topic than... Ooh, the thing we covet. Oh, you need it so bad. You'd give up your soul for your new episode of Cock. Swaim need cock. Swaim need cock.
He's been saying this.
This is what he's been saying.
This is just a thing he does off camera, too.
Since the year 1993, which was when this came out. Abe, before we launch into it, I want to ask which version you watched. Because something I found out by researching is there's many, many versions.
Including a 3-hour one, right?
The aspect ratio and the time. I watched the full Heritage Uncut because I was up at 2 a.m. with a baby, so it didn't matter. I watched the 4-hour complete that the director doesn't even like. The director likes the 3-hour, and then there's also a 2-hour theatrical. So I watched the 4-hour, which needs editing. But I sort of know what was cut by and large and what wasn't. But it was 4:3 pan and scan, which sucks.
Yeah, sucks.
What about you?
Well, I know half as much as you. I watched the normal 2-hour one,
theatrical release.
Everyone says is the best.
Oh, see, I read that the 3-hour. They were like, well, some of the B plots make more sense in the 3-hour.
I actually think the thing is improved. Like, granted, I haven't seen all this.
So you're like, I don't need.
I like that it kind of skips around in the 2-hour version because it's true. There's a lot of story. There's even in this podcast, we won't talk about all the details and all the beats because he kind of comes in and he just messes up a town. And you don't need, I kind of like after the fact going like, oh, he must have sold something to him or her as well. You know, like it's this kind of, I don't need to know information. It seems like
it's just like, oh, he clearly got that person. He clearly got that person.
Unless there's more plot that makes it better. No, you tell me.
It makes it make total sense. What you are saying is totally correct and accurate and the right choice for a film. It was originally presented as a TV miniseries. So all I'll say is the 4-hour makes it feel more like an exercise that we often do. Like Picket Fences, that show Picket Fence. Like if it's more your speed, it makes it feel more like a novel. If it's more your speed, the 4-hour is very much intentionally so one of those like we get to know every single person in the town, and it's more of like a slice of life, and you slowly learn their beefs and grudges and historical connections with each other, and that makes some of the monkey's paw deals even more poignant. But the version you're saying is like, yeah, that's how you do it as a movie. Which is structured differently than a novel.
Yeah, I was reading that there was only a few minor differences in terms of like, there's a whole new characters. I guess the mother of Brian, the boy. No, it's just
like, and it's the worst one. Like whoever said, yeah, we could lose that is right. Brian's mom loves Elvis and like loves him so much that she sells her soul for Elvis memorabilia and starts to go crazy and fall in love with a statue of Elvis. And it muddies things up because, if you don't know, Needful Things is the classic Homer Simpson cursed Frogurt scenario. It's just the devil comes to your town, he runs an antique store, and he'll give you whatever you want, but it's a monkey's paw. It's like a bad deal every time.
There was a Rick and Morty episode that was like lifted exactly this.
There was a great Are You Afraid of the Dark that was this. I believe it was originally a Ray Bradbury. Like, I don't know if he invented the conceit, But Cursed Curio Shop for sure, way back. I'd love to hear people weigh in if you think like this is the OG Cursed Curio Shop.
Yeah, it feels
story.
like it's a mix of
Twilight
Monkey's
Zone, I'm
Paw
sure did it
along with Faust, right?
Faust. Yeah. Good on you. Faust is definitely a big part of it. But regardless, my point being, usually the stuff he gives them doesn't also affect them mentally. She seems like she's magically, her love for Elvis is hyped up. Point is, that's the dumbest one and they cut it. So it's like, I get all their choices, but I really like seeing Ed Harris be a good guy. And you get more of that, of him just being a good man. Which is
right.
He's always some weirdo now.
Yeah. It's always so weird. And also,
speaking of weird, Max von Sydow, speaking of weirdos.
Yeah. Sydow or Sydow. I can't, like, they both, I've heard both.
Some film buff corrected me to Sydow, so I do that. I don't know.
Oh, really? I've been corrected to Sydow by other snobs. So
I guessed Sydow my whole life, and someone nudged me. I don't know.
Or Sydow.
Sight unseen.
I think it's one of those things. But yeah, we'll pronounce it probably back and forth this whole episode. He kills it as
Brandon
the devil.
Fraser.
And I say we segue.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah. So on this show, we digest things through 3 stomachs. The first stomach being pedagogy. No, diegesis. Diegesis.
Nope, under the dome.
Under the dome.
Our best guess puts the dome at 20,000 feet, sir.
Did he just call it a dome?
You think we might be stuck in here a while?
Hey, thanks for bringing me back, dude. We're back.
We're back, baby.
This is under the dome.
This is under the dome. But you're right. It's kind of like diegesis if you're more familiar with our Anderson content.
Sure.
This is the elevator synopsis of the movie where we pick apart scenes that apply to the whole. Things I'd like to highlight that we are, because
I guess you should take the lead, because otherwise I'm gonna go ham and you'll be like, didn't see that, don't care about that, because I have the whole 4 hours.
I'll quarterback for the 2 hour version.
Sure.
But I like hitting the Stephen King of it all.
Oh, there's a good scene that they cut. I'm gonna say it.
Hell yeah,
cool.
So small town. East Coast town, right? It's a Stephen King after all. It's the production titular Castle Rock.
The only movie produced by Castle Rock that takes place in Castle Rock.
Even though there are several, I believe, other films that Castle Rock is
they just didn't produce them.
Right. I think it's Stand By Me, which is when the distribution company was formed.
Half.
The Dark Half, which also has Ed Harris in it. Cujo, that's the name of the town, and the Dead Zone, that's the name of the town. So it's one of those things.
It's funny because Cujo's just like one farmhouse. Who fucking could be anywhere?
And it's the kind of place where everybody knows everybody. Ed Harris shows another town person, I think it's Nettie is her name, a wedding ring that he's got. He's like, I'm going to propose, baby. And he orders a big piece of pie. So we're just getting Americana right out of the gate.
Thing, yeah.
And the new hub around the businesses is that there's a new store that is opened by a mysterious man, and that's Max von Sydow.
Gabbo.
Yeah, no one knows anything about him, but he drives a black Mercedes that looks distinctively evil.
I confirmed it was product placement at the time. It was a brand new Mercedes-Benz they were pushing. Yeah.
Perfect. That's the kind of product placement I love, because it's like Mercedes doesn't even care.
They're like, the devil
give it
owns
to the evil
this.
guy.
Hey, this car makes a kid kill himself. As long as they see
the
it.
devil?
Slap the peepers on our car. Yeah.
1956.
Oh, Satan. Hasatan, the adversary.
Yes, please. So we cut to a boy riding a bike, which I think is the most
Stephen King
opening image that you can think of.
13-year-old boy riding a fucking bike.
And he goes into the store, which is basically opening as he walks up. Like, there's boxes full of stuff everywhere, but he looks at the door, it says open. And it's just got all the cool stuff, and they're cheap too. And they talk about baseball cards. We're jumping around a lot in this, but I'll hit the main ones. Ed Harris proposes to his fiance at this point, Polly, not to be confused with Bonnie Bedlia's other famous role, Holly, from Holly McClane fame. In other words, you can probably recognize her from Die Hard.
Paulie
is what
also
I'm
works
saying.
at the diner. That's why we're at the
Gennaro.
diner. We meet Nettie. Yeah.
Yeah, she works at the diner.
Also, sorry, in your cut, did they do the thing where it's common knowledge that she killed her husband with a hammer because he was abusive, but everyone just lets it
Nettie?
slide? Yeah.
That coin drops when she goes into the store, and Maxwell and Sydow is
in
like,
the full
hey,
cut, they say it right away. They're like,
it
yeah, we
wasn't your
treat her
fault.
special. Yeah.
So we cut back. Sydow whips out a Mickey Mantle card that seems to be personally signed to the boy Brian.
Your dad, Cisco, is going to love this.
Jake, forget it, Jake. It's Mickey Mantle. When the kid touches it, he apparently gets like a sense. This happens to everyone. They get like a sense memory of either like being Mickey Mantle or whatever they kind of want.
It feels good. It's unclear.
I think it feels good because there's kind of like a little bit of, like orgasm. They're like head lurches back. There's
directing
blue
the
lightning.
scene. All right, kid. Do you know O-Face? Has your dad told you about O-Face?
I don't know why he's David Lynch.
You're
but
like,
that's
Mickey Mantle, you're so good at baseball. Okay, roll.
You're so good at baseball. The boy, the boy's like, I need that, obviously, but I don't have money. And so Sydow is like, he does the same deal that we here at Small Beans have, which is you get, as payment, you do a prank on or trick somebody.
Oh, right. But also pennies a month. And then he's like, this is all I have. And he's like, what a coincidence. It only costs 17 cents plus one simple favor, which is the deal he will always make with everyone.
Everyone to prank somebody and it's going to get out of hand. But we start, I guess, small, like meaningfully mean, but small stakes. It's not revealed exactly at this point what he's going to do, but it is revealed that Sydow has this little book of names and he's got many pages in it and he scribes Castle Rock, Brian Rusk in it. Also, he's got long cocaine fingers, like the devil normally has. We have an entry of this big town elitist whose surname is Keaton. And everyone calls Buster, which he hates. I think his name is Dan something.
Way
Dan's
worse than Buster.
Yeah, and he hates it.
Also, Buster Keaton's a genius. Like, you should be honored. And if anyone hasn't seen this, he's Mr. Fishoder from Bob's Burgers. He's like the eccentric guy who owns the whole pier, and that's why he's rich and everyone hates him.
Right. Played by J.T. Walsh, who is known for playing like kind of assholes. He's got a great asshole face. And he's just tired. Like, this is a classic trope of Stephen King. He's a elitist, comes from like Boston, comes from a big town, who's tired of this bullshit small town. He apparently parks in handicapped spots and keeps getting tickets from the deputy. And he's just like, and I also don't like that you called me Buster. And I hate you because I sell
own
boats.
This town, there wouldn't be a police force. Just let me park wherever I want. Fuck you.
Because apparently boating, like he's a boat salesman. And that's like
the thing
a huge
here. Everyone's
deal there.
a fisherman or a boater. Yeah.
That's fair. Ed Harris has to grab the deputy and Buster and like pull them apart. Because he's that kind of character. And he's also a bit angry at the world. In that scene, he's like, I think the world's insane. It's like three men who have lost it already.
He's like, I moved from the big city. I thought it would be easier. It is not easier. It's the same. I hate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just as crazy here.
Back at the shop, more customers are uneasy, like a lady, the local turkey farmer. Just hates Nettie's dog. We met Nettie earlier when Ed Harris was like, "Hey, check out this ring. I'm gonna, I'm gonna go for it with Paulie." But she's got a dog that she loves more than anything, and she threatens to skin the dog because it barks at her. And Sydow de-escalates by basically mind melding with the dog. Which is another little
dog whispers.
Nice. Yep.
I also want to point out a line there because while the couple's in, right, the hick couple who are about to leave so that he can make a deal with Nettie, we get the end of his deal with them and they're dummies. Like, that's their function in the movie. So I love that he's going like, and this chisel broke the mortar of the final brick in Versailles,
Yeah.
And the wife goes, "Hey, Bert, look at this chisel. It's old."
Yeah.
That's their object. That's their cursed object they leave with. This old
It's
chisel.
the equivalent of meteor shit. You know, in any case.
Well, her thing is shittier, which is a Hummel figurine. It's just a little porcelain
Nettie,
doll baby.
The dog lady, she sees a little German boy figurine
a little
bathed
Abe.
in light on a pedestal. And it's like clear that Sydow knows intimate knowledgeable details about everyone, like the one we mentioned. That the dog lady killed her husband after
and with
years
the kid,
of
he was
abuse.
like, "It's not your fault they got divorced, Brian." How did you know? Yeah.
The boy who got the Mickey Mantle card, Brian, executes his prank on the local turkey farmer. So another important part of this, mythos is that no one does it to the person that they're like beefing with in town. They do, it's like everyone's doing favors for someone else. Something they're unrelated to.
There's no traceable
so it can't be
connections.
Tracked back. Yeah.
Because he's just ruining the town. He
Because it'd be
doesn't care
like, why
who
would he
attacks
do
who.
that?
Right.
The only thing that we know about them is the turkey farmer and him, Brian, the boy, are neighbors.
Yeah.
They seem to be fine. There's no beef there. But he gathers up some turkey shit from her farm and throws it on her linens that are just out drying. Cut back to Ed Harris and Sydow. And it seems that Sydow's like kind of struggling with Ed Harris. We get this vibe that Harris doesn't seem to need things, and this is off-putting to Sydow. So he's like, get the fuck out of here after they share a piece of pie. More reveals that there's some moral hypocrisy in town. The local church has casino nights, the Catholic church, and there seems to be kind of a priest, a father, a Catholic priest fighting a Baptist reverend. And this is like known beef in the town.
The Reverend being Hammond from Stargate SG-1.
There you go. And basically they hate each other. And it's the Baptist puts up a sticker on the casino night saying like, say no to the devil.
Gambling is evil.
And the turkey farmer, now fresh off the prank, she just walks right into her linens, which is a weird, they're there.
Shit hits her in the face, and her response is to like just clumsy French waiter in that Simpsons episode be like, "Oh no," and like flail around, twirling through the shit,
like
so that
put it in
it's
my
the
mouth.
worst possible experience you could have. Like I'm like, well, I understand why she's mad. Because it shook out that way, like that sucked.
But she also could have watched where she was going and been like,
and just been like,
shit
"Oh,
on my
shit
linens."
on our shit." Yeah.
But now it's in her mouth, and she doesn't even clean
and
up.
she's immediately like, "I'm gonna kill that dog." Like jumping to conclusions.
This is
bro.
clearly, she blames it because I think that's the point of the story.
That's what he's
right?
preying upon, right? Yeah.
Ed Harris. No. So we get more. We get more of the like she calls the Nettie. She's like, "I'm gonna kill your dog," and we get more character setup with like. At this point, it's like clearly a Rube Goldberg like powder keg. There's some government worker who's an alcoholic, Hugh the drunk. He's like the town drunk who sees a Letterman jacket in the window, which reminds him of his glory days. And he also starts to notice that we start to notice that like as people kind of come into the store, they become more complacent. They don't ask questions about like why Sydow would know that. Like in this one, the clear indication is he like instantly knows his name is Hugh, and he wasn't like, "I didn't tell you my name." He's just fine with it.
Right.
And they start mimicking Sydow's words back to him. And the pranks start to get more intense at this point. Instead of just telling them, "Hey, maybe you go prank someone," or, do some harmless turkey shit pranks. This time it's like, that Nettie lady who killed her husband? And he just pulls out a knife and smiles. Like it's very clear.
The guy's like, "I won't do a murder." And he goes, No, sir. My God, no. Kill her dog. Stab her dog in the throat, dude.
Skin her
I'm
dog.
not a monster.
Because again, that's an interaction that neither of them were really there for. I guess he could have overheard while they're in the store of like, "I'm going to skin that dog." But the point is, he seems to be semi-omniscient.
Mm-hmm.
The Baptist reverend stops by the store to ask Sydow to put like, hey, like, what's your religion? If you're, cool with it and you're non-denominational, which he says he is, you should put this anti-devil bumper sticker that I have in your window. And Sydow just refuses. He's like, but I'll sell you my stuff, because it's clear that he doesn't want to do the anti-devil messages, because that would be like saying, I don't like me. So we basically get more of a montage. Everyone's finding items they're in love with. I don't think that I want to dwell on like all of them. I think we see the Holy Grail at one point. You probably unpacked that because the Catholic priest,
the Irish priest,
is with the Irish priest has a cup,
a holy relic that's like, wow, I can't believe I got this saint's cup. It's amazing.
It's a saint's cup,
thing he covets, and it just distracts him from doing anything else. And the other one that I think is load bearing is Danforth Keaton, the guy who owns the town, admits to Ed Harris, tell me if this is cut out, that he's been skimming off of the town funds.
No, that's in.
It isn't, because he has so much gambling debt because he's addicted to horse racing, and the devil sells him a little horse racing toy that can predict winners 100% of the time. So naturally, he becomes supernatural. Like, that's his only focus. And his wife starts being like, why won't you come out of the office? And all he's doing is horse races.
Exactly. The only, I'll skip to where you kind of.
Oh, and he starts to have schizophrenic paranoid breaks because the implication is he had some mental health challenges and the devil amps him up. Because while he's in the store, he goes like, and I know about the guys, Dan. And he goes, what do you mean? And he goes, the people who watch us. He goes, you know about the people who replace mirrors with cameras and watch us? He goes, yeah, this town's full of them, man. And only you and me know. So he starts playing that angle as well.
Right. And we almost get this feeling that it doesn't just stop at like just pushing the mentality of like some people. It's also like straight up thralls, like Dracula at some points, because we see as he meets with Paulie Chambers, Sydow at the diner, who's like, can I get some coffee and pie? And I want to give you this gift. We see in the corner, like of the background of the shot, we see Brian, the kid, who's just like in the rain looking at him, like in a thrall, right? Where he's just staring at him through the window. So it's like, there's something that goes on in terms of your mentality. He obviously is this toxic kind of energy. Speaking of Brian, he completes his prank after he's like, you have to do more. You can't just do the turkey shit. You now have to, apparently the cost of the Mickey Mantle card is so high that he has to do a second prank. And that prank is that he breaks all the windows of the turkey farmer's house as well, where he throws apples at them. Separately, the Letterman jacket drunk, Hugh, skins, we don't see until later, it's pretty fucking brutal, but he skins Nettie's dog.
Definitely the grungiest, or like the pinnacle of and them actually trying to scare you in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Which this leads to, I think.
And then the apples are a signature kind of apple that Nettie famously uses to make her pies every morning.
So it's like symbolic. So it's like you have to assume.
You guys have to fight, obviously. So she goes up, you killed my dog. You put shit on me. Way less of a complaint, in my opinion. Right. You skinned my dog. And they start knife fighting out in the rain. Well, before that,
just because I think it's key that Buster Keaton, who's the gambler, is now like Nettie before the fight. Her job is to put up these citation notices for embezzlement to kind of play into the paranoia of
the devil tells her to go blow the lid off of Danforth, which of course makes him even more paranoid.
More paranoid, and specifically focuses the signatures on all of them. I believe including like the most of them say embezzler and stuff like that, but one of them it just says horse fucker. But the signature at the bottom is Ed Harris's deputy, Norris.
Who he already hates because Norris is the guy who's constantly giving him parking tickets. So you're like, oh, okay, that's fight number 2 that he's cooking up.
Yep. So in any case, both women, after doing their, relative, their different, crimes, slice each other apart really with kitchen knives, which is crazy.
Nettie
There's another
brains Wilma
Americana
with
image.
a butcher knife, ultimately.
Yeah.
But then I don't know why it's the only moment to me that went so comical in the thing. Did your guys have this shot where the husband discovers her body with the butcher knife in her head and goes, "Oh, Wilma, you really done it now." Yup.
Yeah. God,
The
he's
fuck is that
lovely.
choice? All right.
I love
whatever.
that there are people in this, like
Really?
radius of the town. It's like everyone who has beef is lured into these things, but there are just some people who they don't need anything and they're not really relevant. And he's one of them. He's
in your
totally
version,
fine.
Did he get to Polly? He insinuates himself into Polly's life by going like, "I notice you have carpal tunnel syndrome."
Correct.
And you're very self-conscious about it. It's just such a low stakes thing for the devil to be like, "I got your soul, bitch."
Yeah.
Can you cure your carpal tunnel?
And so he gives her as a gift. This is not like you have
like
to
gloves.
do crimes for me. This is just, I think he's like looking out for like Ed
He's trying to
Harris.
split up her and Ed Harris in some way. Yeah.
Because he knows Ed Harris could be a problem down the line. And so he just wants to cure her arthritis. So he gives her this little, necklace.
Yeah.
And when she gets the vision from putting on the necklace, the curse download or whatever it is, Sydow is in the dream this time, and he and Polly are just boning.
Which made me not
is new.
understand the rules of the visions or even what the previous visions meant. Did you also have that issue?
Well, it is the odd man out.
What are the visions then?
I think we'll talk about that
Okay.
in our next section, but because I do have theories.
You have
and
a theory,
also,
great.
I think there is inconsistencies. I think you're right about that. And some might matter and some I don't find matter. Meanwhile, at the double murder scene, the priests have more of a face-off. Apparently, each woman has a different faith. That makes sense. When Harris asked the boy, who's the neighbor, who's kind of like lingering at the crime scene.
Why are you here? What
have you seen? Like, what's up? And the kid acts super sketch. Harris starts to notice, like, okay, something's up with that kid. So later he goes to question the kid, and Brian's like, well, basically, Sydow's the devil, the actual devil. And he's like, and I don't want to live anymore. He pulls out a gun and puts it to his dome, and Harris is like, oh, and he's like, tries to get the gun. The boy shoots it. He doesn't kill himself because of Harris's actions. We're meant to believe that he
pushed his arm aside.
He pushed his arm, but he is hospitalized. He's out of the picture. More plots. The Reverend slashes the drunk's tires, and the drunk thinks it's the bar owner who consistently throws him out every night. So it's just more of the same kind of thing. Sydow is like, it's one of the funniest at the point. This made me laugh out loud, which is that when he's like, he goes to Needful Things, the drunk, and he's just there because he has no place to go. And he's like, I hate the bar owner. And Sydow's like, here's a convenient shotgun. I don't know what you might do with this, but here you go.
He's lost all it's always something really subtle. And then finally he's like, oh, I have the perfect little item that you might find poignant for this particular moment. It's just a loaded shotgun. He's like, go next door and shoot that dude.
Shoot that dude, right? That's what you should do, right?
Yeah,
he doesn't give a shit at this point.
Everything's spiraling. Like, the cops have discovered the skinned dog at this point. The kid's injured but not dead. They find the fingerprints of the town drunk Hugh on the knife that killed Rader, but they also find that the gun was registered to Buster Keaton. So they're like, what's going on in this town?
It's just entangled.
And it's enough that Alan, Ed Harris, our guy, is like suspicious, or he can see the pattern, right? He's like, it's that guy, something with that guy.
Right, but any kind of logic sounds insane because it's like he goes to Polly.
What am I going to arrest him for? Stealing souls?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. He visits Polly and he's like, I get super bad vibes from this guy. But like, the kid obviously shot himself. Like Polly points out, like, you sound crazy. How could Sydow be even involved? And at the police, he's like, you should take that necklace off, though. Take the necklace off. And she's like, no. Meanwhile, Harris breaks into Needful Things. He, at this point is like, I need to talk to this guy. And he's not there. And it's empty. It looks like the store is being cleared out. Some rooms are just straight up like,
And he does
there's
the
no story
classic,
anymore.
runs a background check, and they're like, this guy's from nowhere and has no ID, and we can't.
Right.
Yeah.
In the basement, there's like some newspapers in a box, and they're his exploits. They're going back to 1894.
Pennywise, exact same scene.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It
And The
goes
Shining.
by quick. I think I saw JFK was assassinated as one of the headlines.
Yeah, there's some interesting ones that we'll mention in How to Do That.
Good,
There's Easter eggs of, oh, he did that, whatever.
But the topper for Harris is it includes the recent double murder in Castle Rock.
Oh, see, he goes one page beyond that, and I thought that was the topper, which was he has a
He sees
clipping
the
that
future.
says A-bomb falls on Hiroshima. No, he's responsible
He
for
did
the
World War
nukes,
II?
dude.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the devil.
I mean, he's the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're supposed to think he aims big.
Right.
At this point, he goes back. Harris goes back and tells his deputy, who also thinks he's crazy, momentarily. Also, when Polly kind of listens to him. She's like, "All right, so I do like trust my, lover here. So I'm gonna at least open the pendant and see what's inside it." And as soon as she does it, like the curse reacts. And she goes through like an arthritic attack where she has some kind of withdrawal. We're unsure, but the curse cripples her hands. Like she falls upon the ground, and when she can't put it back on, Sydow just appears and is like, "Oh, this? You want this?" And she's like, "I want to know what's inside that. That's crazy. My arthritis is worse than it's ever been." And he responds, "I can't tell you what's inside. That would spoil the fun."
Have you ever seen Rosemary's Baby?
Yeah, I had that
little
too.
thing in the necklace.
Yeah, because Satanists have some good ideas.
Good herbs.
But he puts the necklace basically back on her, and this time asks for a favor. So it's no longer a gift. It's like,
a smooch.
you want this,
He
so
goes, "And
now
kiss me." Yeah.
you work for me. And he tries to turn her against Harris. And he just makes up this lie where Harris is in cahoots with Buster Keaton, the boat salesman, and also is embezzling the money from town.
Which he just gets some of his minions to plant evidence.
Yeah,
to that
I
effect.
see. That was the part that I liked. That I was like, I assumed it might have been answered in the 4-hour
Oh, it's
version.
the priest and the reverend do the necessary things to frame
Plant
him
the money.
for embezzlement.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like,
the devil
they
just
don't tell you
frames
about
Ed
that.
Harris for embezzlement to get her to finally go, I guess he's not a good man. Okay, I'll smooch the devil.
Exactly. And yeah, exactly. And then he lays down some Max von Sexto. That's what I wrote down.
I guess.
Yeah.
He uses those cocaine nails to pierce the G spot. Sounds painful.
Run through her hair. I also
yeah.
think his teeth are getting darker at this point in the movie.
He does the Desperado scene with the spur across the belly, but just his fingernails creepily spidering across.
It's hot.
Yeah.
It's a real hot scene. Anyway, she goes to Harris's boat and she finds like the envelopes of money. And she calls Harris and tells him, like, look, I know you're lying now. Like, Sydow told me everything. And suddenly, Buster crashes into the deputy's car outside the police station where Harris is. And he and we have JT
Dan
Walsh
Forth and
and
Norris.
deputy.
Yeah.
Start straight up fighting in the rain. And Harris has to break it up. And he just fucks Buster up, which I think is hilarious.
Well,
Just
Norris
punches-
even does the thing where he pulls his gun and gets him to like grovel and be scared and then fires it and it's empty. And
Right.
so you're like, which I thought was a great tension because you're like, how far gone is he? Oh, no, he's still not that far gone. He wouldn't murder a man in the street.
Yeah. He just kind of wants to torture him a little bit. He's not going to do something crazy. But I do love how he's like, I'm going to shoot you in the balls. And then immediately JT Walsh kicks him in the balls.
Yeah.
And that's how he gets away because he kind of...
But he's been handcuffed to his car door, so he drives home with his hand handcuffed to his car door. His wife, of course, is like, what the fuck is going on? Are you okay? Are you crazy? And he... Which obviously has to be the devil's influence because there's no reason or evidence at all. He's like, do you fuck that deputy? That deputy that I hate? You fuck him, don't you?
It's his paranoia.
And she goes, no, Buster. And he goes, Buster! And he kills her with a hammer.
I'm going to kill you with a hammer. And he's just mean to her in general.
Yeah, he's
like
a
very
bastard.
abusive relationship.
Yeah.
We get the vibe that it's been amped up, but he's just a piece of shit. degenerate gambler.
Ooh, I do love the dialogue though. He calls Leland and he goes on the phone, I killed my wife. Was that wrong? I didn't mean to. It depends. Did she deserve it? I don't know. I loved her. Well, these things happen. I can't picture Dan Keaton doing something to someone who didn't deserve it. Come on into the shop. That's good dialogue. Yeah.
I like that dialogue too. Is that wrong? Is such a good.
Was that wrong?
Like he's just like at this point, he's of all of the people, he's the most lost.
Yeah.
And the only other scene, the interstitial in this montage, is that I wanted to mention is that when Harris arrives at his boat, Polly's gone now, but has left her engagement ring. And so now he's like, okay, so Sydow's fucking up my, marriage now. Anyway, next up is Hugh the Drunk and the bar owner. Hugh the Drunk arrives, just has his shotgun out, and he blasts a hole in like the ceiling. And then the bar owner pulls out his own shotgun.
He's like, surprise, bitch. Like every bartender ever, I also have a shotgun.
Yeah. So now they're both pointing a shotgun and they blast each other. So that's the end of that. Buster digs a hole in the graveyard of one of the churches. I believe the Catholic Church, to put dynamite in it. And can I say, Swaim, that for the last 30 minutes of this movie, there's just a lot of dynamite around town.
I was like, why is the devil lean so heavily on C4? He packs a bunch of C4 in his basement that he uses a fair bit of for various purposes. It's like, hey, I'm going to use, I can destroy this whole town by unraveling the human tapestry with nothing but a Hummel figurine, a jacket, and a buttload of C4. Okay, well, and which to the point, I think it's when he gives C4 to Danforth and is like, now you're going to plant explosives for me. Also, I like that he's like, you're praying for your dead wife. Don't pray. I don't like people who pray. And he goes,
I love that little bit. Yeah.
Here's a bunch of C4. Now go do this. And he goes, I know who you are at this point. Why don't you just split the earth open and crush everyone and take souls?
At this point, you're magic.
And of course, the devil there is no answer to that in devil stories, so he gives a mysterious, but I do like it. He goes, I'm not the Father, Son, or Holy Ghost. I'm just one lonely guy. I like the idea that the devil's like, I'm an underdog, man. I'm the only one out here fighting God. It's tough. I got to fight God, Imagine that, buddy. Anyway, blow the town up.
Blow the town up.
He gives him a duffel bag full of C4. He's like, I don't know. See what you can do with this, man.
So he does that. He digs a hole and plants that. And after the initial crime scene investigation of the bar murders, Harris visits the Catholic priest, who we assume he is also Catholic, because he's asking him for help. He's like, how do you think Satan manifests? And the Catholic priest, who's like, huh, what? Because he's still fawning over his cup, by the way. The priest is like, well, it's more of Satan, all this Satan stuff. It's more of a metaphor. But the priest defends Sydow. He's a decent man. And Harris is like, fuck, he got you too. So we get that.
Sydow does the Joker argument to Batman, which is like, dude, God could smite me at any time. I'm the stick that drives people to stay religious. God wants me doing this. Yeah. You should lose your faith because God's actually a prick. You're like, oh no. Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah. And and it's got that Invasion of the Body Snatchers vibe where Ed Harris is just like, as soon as he hears what he needs to hear,
hot fuzz,
he's
frankly.
Fucking pull the ripcord. And just then the graveyard bomb goes off just as the priest says, if there's a devil here, it's the Baptist. And Harris sees Sydow just watching from afar, through the windows, and he's just smoking and smiling. And just then, not across town, but fairly nearby, lightning strikes the Baptist chapel and basically blows up the church. At least a burning cross almost kills the priest.
I'm just realizing how midnight massy this is as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of, especially the
Flanaganisms.
The flawed priests. It definitely goes hard. In a craze, he heads in a craze, basically, he's like, well, all of this, including presumably the lightning, is the Baptists' fault. So we're going to get that scene in a little bit. But in town, people have just gone generally to rioting at this point.
There's looting and rioting. What I also love is there's a bunch of people just fighting over mundane, petty objects that you would perceive as valueless. So you're like, I guess he's done this to everyone, because there's like people fighting in the street over a lunchbox. And you're like, oh, okay, I see.
That must be an important lunchbox.
The town is compromised generally. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's just fighting in the streets, people looting from storefronts, trying to hit each other with cars.
Dan is hobgoblining around, just throwing C4 through store windows, blowing shit up.
At one point, he gets a sniper rifle, and Harris gets a shotgun from his squad car and just starts blasting in the air to try to scare away the looters. It works for a while, but some of the looters are just throwing up bombs into the storm fronts, and and as we mentioned, there's a sniper scope on Harris, so we get this little, planned payoff where it's like, who's going to kill Harris? And Harris has to break up the priest fight when the Catholic is like about to kill the Baptist with what looks like a cleaver from a Diablo game. Like it's a fucking medieval weapon, whatever
Hamburger
that is.
Knife.
Yeah, and Sydow's like, hell yeah, do it. Fucking do it. And he's also egging on Harris. He's like, I will shoot you if you get close to him with that weapon. And Sydow's like, yeah, Harris, shoot him. So he's just chaos at this point, as you'd expect from the devil. And he kind of tries to do a spell on Harris to get him to kill the Catholic priest at one point. But like Harris fights it off and instead screams and does a bad boys. I was going to ask you his weapon in the air.
Would you call this a dad movie? Our dad expert? Only because he basically beats the devil just by lecturing the town in a fatherly way. I don't know if that's enough to make the whole thing a dad movie.
I wouldn't make this like a top tier dad movie.
Everyone, knock it off. Do you not see what's happening here? This guy's the devil. All right. And everyone's like, sorry. Okay. Yeah. We're sorry.
For sure. It's definitely not like top tier dad movie, but I would say there's a very big argument, and I've seen it a lot in covering both. You're referencing Inside Dads, another podcast on the network, that Stephen King has like very close, adjacent, if not right on dad energy, especially with some of the Americana stuff and traditionalism. Like the elitist, like blue collar versus white collar stuff that we see a lot of. All that is like very like semi-libertarian dad style. But yeah, so it does come up a lot, but like Stephen King also likes to fuck with it. Like he likes to say, yeah, that's kind of a flaw. So he's a little more anti-dad than most give him credit, I would argue.
Yeah.
And some dad films even are like that. We just covered one. But in any case, Harris fires his weapon in the air and then screams at all the townspeople that shit stops now. And he's like, do you not see that it's clearly the man who's smoking on his deck watching all of this?
Going, yes.
It's probably he's involved. He's
got
doing
a huge
this.
boner. Yeah.
And he explains it all. He's like, he thrives, or he seems to eat or something, like our pain. He drops it on everyone in the middle of the street and pleads with them to just stop hating. And at the end of the speech, Polly kind of walks up and she's like, shows that she supports him and takes the necklace off, which that was the scene where in the two, you just get like the validation of like love conquers all, but there's no like scene work that happens where Polly is like, you know what? I now do believe Harris.
Oh, there's still last
we checked in.
I would say all they really add is it's more like a I am Spartacus moment where it's like the goodness of the town. Everyone steps forward one by one. Like, right. We choose to support each other as a community. In the end, people are basically good, not basically evil. Get behind me, devil.
Yeah. And so they all basically ask for forgiveness,
and including ultimately Gollum, the evilest one,
one who
comes out with the sniper rifle and a suicide vest of all the remaining C4 and is like, but I'm still upset and I'll kill everyone. But then finally he wins his internal battle and is like, you know what? I'm just going to kill the devil and redeem myself thereby.
And he rock bottoms Sydow.
Well saying, don't call me Buster!
He blows up the store.
All blow up. The whole
And
store
Sydow.
collapses. And I do love the line after. There's a long silence, and a guy goes, "Shouldn't have called him Buster."
Which is perfect.
Perfect. Just
Perfect thing to
amazing.
say in that
Shouldn't have called him
instance.
Buster, I guess.
Like, ooh, awkward. It's a real
The
Rodney
devil.
Dangerfield
Does that
moment.
mean there is no devil? Like, is that?
Right. But Psych turns out Sydow just walks out of the rubble unscathed, and he says,
Sephiroth, dude.
Yeah, and I love that the first thing he says as he dusts off his suit, he's like, this wasn't my best work. Which
Yeah,
is
like, I
just
was
so,
just thinking, right? He goes, I did Hiroshima. This is whatever.
Yeah, and
says,
he calls
I'll
it his
come back
job.
some other time. And they go, not to this town. And he goes, oh yeah. Give my regards to your grandson, who will be named Bob. He will be involved in international trade. I'll meet him in 2053 on August 14th at 10 a.m.
It is
like you
awesome.
cannot be rid of the devil, right? Long after you're dead.
Legitimately, next to the Mist.
That's a cool move. Yeah.
One of the best endings to a movie, because he just gets in his fucking
There's
car
nothing
and
you
leaves.
can do, dude. I'm the devil.
You can't kill me. I mean, it sucked that this didn't work.
You
beat
got me. You got me to leave. I'll leave for a while. Yeah.
So, and as we dolly away from
it's funny that, like, as he drives away, they're just like, damn, he got us, the devil. I'm like, at least try shooting him 50 times in the back and then burning his body. Like, they don't try,
You try something.
cut him into chunks or something.
Cut him into chunks. Yeah, see if like Terminator he comes back together or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's awesome.
Oh, and also I got to say, amazing last line. For what have been, I would say, a really effective, cute couple. They have like No Country Energy, Polly and Alan, where they're like a couple who just takes it for granted that they love each other, and they are both tough and they don't need to hear it often. But every once in a while, they're like, love you, yeah. The last line of the whole thing, because Polly has forgiven him, but isn't wearing his wedding ring is, so can I have my ring back? I think that's really cute, but
yeah, no, that I like their relationship too, because it doesn't dwell on a lot of them. Like really will take the star-crossed lovers aspect and really drain it for all it's worth. But like this one is just like, no, it's on the rocks for a bit, and then it's ultimately resolved. And that's the end of the dome and Under the Dome.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move to our next segment called Skeleton Crew.
Something in the mist! Shut the doors! Shut the doors!
This is where we talk about the creative team and any interesting behind the scenes trivia real quick before we get to our next segment, where we'll talk themes and scene work and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've been talking a while. Do you want to spit out some shit?
Well, the only, from my research, notable kind of thing was that it's the feature film, it's the directorial debut of Fraser C. Heston, who's Charlton Heston's son. If you look into him, basically his dad helped him out. He's a Nepo baby. He directed, his whole career is he directed some stuff that Charlton Heston was in. And then this was his one at bat where he's like, I'm going to direct something without daddy's help. And it was this. Cool. Good.
You see the IMDb trivia page as well?
Because of the Charlton Heston connection, and because Charlton Heston was Moses in Ten Commandments. He played baby Moses in Ten Commandments because he was just a baby who was around, right? Like happens often. And
Sydow played Jesus in the greatest story ever
recently at the time. So they were discussing how he would do one of the devil scenes, and someone was like, hey, Moses is telling Jesus how to act like the devil.
That's weird.
That's weird.
I love that kind of stuff. That's
cool,
cute.
Sure.
That's cute as hell.
Like, yeah, that's cool. So you have some Easter eggs I mentioned. One is that I think is the funniest one I found is in the book. If you pause while he's flipping through the pages, you can see that he wrote Port Elizabeth, South Africa, Nelson Mandela, and it's crossed out. So I don't understand the implication. Nelson Mandela traded something that ended up making him a political prisoner, or like what? I can't actually figure out what the.
So here's another thing: is that when they die,
Nelson Mandela's soul
crossed out is different from a check mark. A check mark implies that like they're dead now. Like I got them. I think crossed out means that they avoided it.
Oh, they got me.
I think what they're doing there, and I could be totally off here.
Is that the implication's meant to be he came at Nelson Mandela once and it didn't work
Nelson
out.
Mandela adheres the shit out of him.
Okay. I liked the Spanish name of the movie, La Tienda de los Deseos Malignos, which means the store of evil desire.
Evil desires. That fucking goes hard, dude.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then the only other thing I got that I thought even was of note, which totally makes sense, is in the book, the kid totally just blows his head off in the sewer and his chunks of brain hail rat and rot in the sewer. Well, yeah, in the sewer scene, that's where Brian shoots himself. But in the movie, Stephen of course, the director wanted to do that, and the studio is like, no, say the kid lived even though he shot himself in the head. So they just go, I guess he lived. He shot himself in the head, but he lived. It's TV, folks. We don't want to make it that dark.
I noticed that because we don't even have a scene at the hospital. He's basically fridged.
Yeah, which is amazing to me because a Harlan Ellison short story that's one of my favorites that we never covered on my short-lived Harlan Ellison show is called Knox, Knox, which ends with a skinned animal on a door. And I thought that was gorier than a kid killing themselves, is my point.
Yeah, that it is. It's interesting because like we have a weird little idiosyncrasies.
But they're like, but it's a kid. That. You can't kill a kid.
You can't kill a kid. But also, I would say that it's also of the same kind of ilk to harm.
You can kill a dog usually. Yeah.
Yeah. If someone kicks a dog or something like that, it's like that character is now forever.
Or I think nowadays horror fans, if you do quickly kill kids or dogs, it's a hat tip that you're like, oh, this is one of those horror movies. It's going to go hard. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to go really hard. Well, there's the Stephen King of it.
Yeah.
The only thing I would add is the writer is W.D. Richter, who co-wrote Big Trouble in Little China. And also, I think, notably to this film, he adapted the Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I mentioned there's a lot of that energy in here.
Yeah.
Because I think he's actually pretty good at like the, like paranoia bits.
Yeah.
And also, you'll like this. His one, I don't know if it's his only directorial credit, but he directed Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai.
Wow.
Anyway, that's enough for
Cult
this.
Classic with a capital C.
Let's talk the, classic devil stuff, the Faust of it all. Let's move to It.
Bill, if you'll come with me, you'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
This is where we talk about scene work themes and any symbolism we want to talk about are, a la the Stephen King of it all.
So I figured start with the depiction of the devil. I again want to give props to my favorite writer, Harlan Ellison, has a story that's exactly like this because he wanted every, author in this lane eventually does their riff on the curio shop or the cursed deal with the devil. And his is they do paintings. A guy moves into town and he holds an art exhibition and the paintings are just enough of like a tip that it slowly destabilizes the town, and also coolly done. But I thought it was very well done here. I think Max von Sydow, I'm so glad this exists for him. What a cool, basically von Sydow vehicle, which he deserves. What did you think? I feel like it's up there, and maybe I'm giving it too much credit, but Lon Chaney and blah, 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 these guys where we're like, oh, Frankenstein. Oh, I thought this was we never get the devil. He's a pretty good iconic the devil.
Yeah, he plays the devil several times, very famously.
Yeah.
And this one is he's just a perfect, this is like a Vincent Price, devil.
Very much so.
Like a smooth talking devil. And he does this very, he's just good at being horrifying. I mean, I still think that even though he's famous for things like the Seventh Seal, you know me, dude, you've heard it on this network. My favorite version of him is Strange Brew.
Right. Well, of course. Yeah.
Because it's and it's the same kind of deal. He's like the brewmaster and he's 6'4". He's this enormous guy.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like about this, especially for how they treat the Sydow character, is I love the camera work in this movie in terms of execution. Several times there's camera stuff that I would argue what they're trying to do is make him seem inevitable. The dolly is coming at you as he approaches that at least happens to the boy, and it happens to Buster at one point. Like, he literally closes off space. He doesn't darken the frame, which I think is a typical thing that we do. You know, like, I don't know, Nosferatu just did that. But like, he's closing off space. He's making it a little bit more claustrophobic. And he has that kind of presence as well. Yeah. So definitely kudos to that.
Also, really I got strong Devil's Advocate vibes from the line, which he says to Danforth. You're disgusting, Daniel. I like that in a person.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
He's a good devil. And I love that the devil is actually empathetic, meaning he says some stuff where we're like, that's what a good character who's like a therapist would say. The son's like, I want the baseball card because maybe my dad will come back because he loved baseball. And he's like, and then he left me. And he's like, he didn't leave you. Your dad and your mom's relationship didn't work out. That's not on you, man. Right. And you're like, oh, I like a devil who says stuff where you're like, that's a genuinely good thing to say. And then he'll go, no, shoot someone with a shotgun. Because the last thing I said was cool, right? So now kill this guy.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about the classic devil of it all, because you kind of mentioned earlier, you know, how he gets you with temptation, uses your own flaws, and wants against you. And in this one, he doesn't really torture you. He specifically manipulates your weaknesses and lets you sabotage yourself. He's
evil Amelie. He uses mundane items from your history to compel your action, but it's pain instead of joy.
But he does use tricks. He uses things to make you like super agreeable. He has the force. One that I thought was so funny though is he also, I don't know if they cut this, which they should have. Exactly once at the end of a scene when he's alone in the store, he vanishes, like fades away. And I'm like, hey, you're alone. Like, who is that for? Who's that presenting?
You never use that power again. Like, what? Just a weird choice.
I think the idea, I think, is supposed to be that he only, because...
Or is he fucking off back to hell till he's needed again?
Maybe. I interpret it as when a tree falls in the forest and no one's there. The devil only exists in the details of the human mind.
Well, he's like, I'm not needed.
It's
like
not
my
even
corporeal form is not needed.
He disassociates from reality,
right?
Because he's not in reality anymore.
Gotcha.
He's not perceived, so he only exists as perception allows. But I did want to unpack a little bit some of the classic devils throughout the eras in storytelling, and how this is slightly different, because this kind of how do you use tricks you mentioned, and I like that, because some portrayal exactly like this. I would say like Damn Yankees does this. The self-sabotage is usually like a motivating factor, but the devil has to do a ton of work to make you like not question like wild conveniences. And in this, it's more like a Dracula spell, right? And I actually prefer like Faust. Faust, the devil doesn't do shit. He's just lets you hang yourself.
He's just like, I'm in a position to offer you this deal. Right.
Yeah. You dig your grave. Right. You want the power? Sure, I can give it to you. It's more of the sin taking the front.
And I do think that makes sense, given that King is this kind of story always pretty much the message has to be, does the human soul deserve to go to heaven or hell? Right. Are we basically, would you beat the devil or not? And, I think Faust is much more interested in that as a philosophical question. And Stephen King is doing his entertaining riff on that Faust story. So I do think he's less cognizant of what it like means. I don't think he's like, and this is my statement on the human soul as much.
I actually don't think it's as, I think there's a cause here. I think that Stephen King may not be doing this intentionally, maybe subconsciously, but he's going for that, because
if he is saying the devil needs magic to turn you evil, to me that's saying like humans are basically good. The devil has to work really hard.
I think that is, I mean, is that not the vibe of a reformed man?
Ultimately, I think King is hopeful. I think King is a positive author, which is funny.
And I would say this
author.
One in particular, when he wrote this book, this is known as his first like rehabilitated book. Like it's the first sober book that he wrote, that he says he talks about.
And of course, he says the dude's horse gambling addiction is my alcoholism.
There's Hugh the drunk. But like it makes sense that when you're going to tell the specifics, kind of like the nuanced debate about in The Shining with Kubrick, where if you listen to those featurettes or listen to our episode about it, we talk at length about how, like Kubrick is like, do you believe in devils, and stuff like that, because he wanted to uncrack, is man the devil and we do it to ourselves? It's basically this question, or is it magic? And
is it an evil force? It's not our fault. Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. Someone who, is probably gone through, AA, that you're kind of meant to believe there's not a magical force, but there are forces out of your control that you kind of just have to be fine with. That the doubt of that, the kind of surgical kind of analysis, the, logic brain, where you're like, but like, what exactly is doing it is not necessary in the curing of the disease. And so, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting that this is his first kind of like, okay, so here I'm going to go back to form. But at the same time, this is now, I want to make a statement about my sobriety. And one of those aspects is that I don't have control entirely of it. Sometimes I do feel like the drink is itself like a devil who can cast a spell upon me. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you think?
And that, therefore, that's why he has the sort of ensorcelment power. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I would accuse it of being a plot convenience or a way to just make shit work out, only in the sense of like, otherwise there's stuff like you have to add that to headcanon stuff. Like, for example, the kid, Brian, has already he has the card and he paid him what he said he would do. He's done the chicken shit. And the devil goes, there's more for you to do. Meet me at the lighthouse. And he goes, sure, I guess. And I'm like, there's no way to make that believable unless there's magic. Because it's like, why would he go, no, I'm done here. And I have the card. Goodbye.
Because literally the next scene where we check into his psyche at all, he's like, he's the devil. He's the devil, man. I
don't know why I did that shit.
Yeah. So,
and I also love that he took him to the lighthouse just to throw an apple at him. When in retrospect, that all he did was tell him to go throw apples. Couldn't he just tell him that where they were? Did they have to go to the lighthouse?
Yeah, exactly.
So stuff like that. But so I think it's both. I think King is intentionally saying like the devil is a corrupting force. That's where I land on the issue. But it sure is convenient that the devil can be like, I tempt you. You know what? Here's a shotgun. Just go kill that guy. It feels a little bit like a cop out. I do think it feels that way towards the end, where the devil is just doing whatever he wants. It's like I said, I think it kind of cheapens it that he starts using C4.
C4, yeah.
It's too mundane. Right. Yeah.
It's too mundane and it feels, it feels like, I do like that the devil uses the instruments of humanity to, like best itself. But when it's just like, what, and then cut to Max von Sydow with a huge fucking machine gun mowing down the peasants. Yeah. You could, all right, we're like one step away from him just attacking the town with a gun.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with the Faust being more, philosophically interesting.
Well, because the way that also is aimed at our main character's arc, Ed Harris, is pretty efficiently handled. Like they don't spend a lot of time on Ed Harris changing or learning, but we mentioned it. They do basically an A, B, C connect the dots of he moved here from the big city because he has the question the film is asking, right? Is mankind irredeemable? I moved to the country because I thought people might be better here and my life would be less discordant or whatever. And then the devil in one of the scenes with the devil, he admits that he actually moved here because he was disciplined because he, quote, hit a suspect way too hard and felt like it was the city's corrupting influence. Like the city's making me crazy.
Crazy, yeah.
And the devil goes, well, I reckon he needed some killing. Yeah, but it was still wrong. Of course it was. Yeah, so I left. So now I'm here. And then the devil goes, and so am I, which is good, great, very chilling dialogue. But I wanted to ask you is, am I interpreting, did he kill a suspect? Did he hit someone so hard they died?
I think it's supposed to be an accidental kill.
Really? Yeah, is that the implication there? Because ACAB, that's pretty bad, man.
That's pretty bad.
That's a bad arc, dude.
Yeah, I think that there in this age in the 90s, especially and previously, was like, yep, sometimes that happens and they feel really bad about it and they have demons and it's almost like there was this vibe of like, Because I think, we get cops who are like irredeemable, who say like, who I don't really care that I killed that kid or
Copland,
whatever.
yeah.
So those are the true assholes. There are people who go to war and do terrible things, come back and are forever haunted.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to appeal here to Ed Harris is haunted by his, a snap judgment made in a, specific, time and place. But, you take what you want from that. I think Stephen King is just appealing to that, and it's the 90s.
Well, and then the only other thing I had for this section was big shout out to the thing that we both love the most, which is In the Hall of the Mountain King being used for a montage of, oh no, tension is escalating. I think it's specifically her placing all the tickets all around town montage.
I also noticed it. I was like, danced a little.
Always good.
It's
good.
One of the best.
Works every time.
And it also is perfectly the chaos of this movie.
Yeah.
Because there's a little like cherubic influence of like,
it sounds
I'm up to no good.
Yeah. Who is the Mountain King? That's a good name for the devil. Like, it all works.
Yeah, it all works. It all works. All right, cool. Well, let's go to our let's wrap this up in the final segment that I know some of y'all freaks out there love
bizarrely
to hear about.
Yeah.
The ultimate ranking of the podcast so far, where this movie lands on our personal lists of the King Pantheon. We call it The Stand.
Time to make your stand.
So for the sake of this, I feel like what we could do is just say if we ranked it low or high and then read,
that chunk of the
list.
list.
If it's high, read that chunk so you get some context and say why it's there for you.
Well, we have done 29 episodes, so do you want to cut it in 15 and 15, let's say?
Absolutely.
All right.
It's in my top half. How about you?
This one is, I have to do math because it's in my bottom half, but it's very close.
Well, then I'll peg mine first. So for reference, because it's been a long time, Shawshank is my number one. I forget if it's also Abe's, but it's probably, I think it is. Shining, Dr. Sleep, Stand By Me, Misery, we're getting down there. The Mist, Dolores Claiborne, Needful Things.
Wow.
Pretty high.
That's like 8.
I like Needful Things better than Gerald's Game, which I also like. I'm less impressed by Flanagan than everyone is. That's a thing for me. Dolores Claiborne, interestingly, also King loves the wife brutally murdered the husband, but he totally deserved it. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It lands between, in terms of how much I enjoyed it, it lands between Dolores Claiborne and Gerald's
actually pretty
Game.
Interesting. So you have it at like the 8,
I think
which is like bottom of the really good ones.
Right. And what really sells it is I'm like, Max von Sydow, I think this is an all-timer banger horror performance vehicle and I never saw it. And it's cool to see him do that.
Mm-hmm. I forgot how close our lists are. To answer your question, because I wanted to be a little, mischievous imp myself, I flip. I think The Shining is better than Shawshank Redemption, but it's crazy how like the Stand By Me, Misery, Dr. Sleep, and stuff like that, we all are about the same. And if you were to continue your list, basically, I would have gone Carrie, Gerald's Game, Cujo, Running Man, 1408, Christine, Apt Pupil. So now we're getting to number 15, The Green Mile, which I know is at the bottom of your list.
It's 26 for me.
I have Needful Things at 16, which is like right smack dab in the list. I think it is super solid. It's in the solid section.
What's right above it and right below it for you?
Below it, for me, is Creepshow and then Desperation and then Pet Sematary 2019.
What's about it?
So I actually think Needful Things and Green Mile are like
interesting,
right in the spot
that's high
where
praise,
it's like,
I think from most people's vantage.
Yeah, like I think those are right on the line where it's like better because we love Stephen King. It's not like mediocre. It's just mediocre for Stephen King.
Yeah.
It is. I believe that Needful Things is like the most serviceable and solid it gets. Like it doesn't do anything poor. And it's got a few maneuvers that I like. You know?
Can still tell it's made for TV. So like it's not going to be as audacious as The fucking Shining. Right. In terms of
but is it as iconic as Cujo?
Right.
No. Is it as fun as The Running Man? I wouldn't say
No, but
so.
we've watched a bunch of these, or like, for me, my bottom of my list is Salem's Lot 1979, which is kind of this. It's a slice of life, town going slowly crazy thing. And I think these can be so boring so easily. So I was pleasantly surprised that this is not boring. It's fun.
Right. Like I find the Dead Zone super boring.
Dead Zone was just dry as shit, dude.
It's just dry. I'd even argue Thinner is except for the fact that Thinner has some amazing moments.
Yeah.
It is just like, yep, that's basic as it gets.
Thinner's
a guy gets cursed.
inexplicably alienating. Like there's something, you know how some people will have punchable or asshole face? Thinner, I feel like, has that as a movie. It's like, I don't want to like Thinner. Similar
I don't want to like
Very
Thinner.
Bad Things. That movie. I'm like, I hate
it's
this
just like,
movie.
stop it. Yeah. But
don't tell me this story. You suck.
and Needful Things doesn't have any of those problems.
No,
it's actually like, I love how the devil is manifest. But I also love that out of Apt Pupil. I love, the classic Christine, like, it's a fucking car, Whereas I
Christine
don't
was
like
way
that.
better than I expected. I really didn't think I'd like The Haunted. Oh, also, just to continue the rivalry with our sister network, Gamefully Unemployed, I listened to your episode of Hypecast you were just on, and I can't believe you let it pass that Dave, who I famously just have opposite tastes of, and he was like, right, and then you get something like The Mangler where it's so boring. Dude, The Mangler's fucking awesome. It's entertaining as shit. Ted Levine rules. Like, The Mangler is... And that's the kind of stuff they would watch on a Friday movie night. What's his problem with The Mangler?
I
love
don't
The Mangler.
know.
A guy gets rolled up like a Looney Tune.
I remember thinking about that. I was like, that's a weird take from him. That's a take I might say, because I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I get that it's awesome.
I thought it was very fun. Yeah,
it's very fun, but it's like everyone, I feel like we can objectively agree that it's like
it's bad shit.
Insane.
Yeah, it's like a poorly made.
It's not well made.
Right, yeah.
Characters are way over the top.
You're
but
like,
that's
is that his
charm.
friend or his lover? Who is that guy? Is that just his neighbor?
It's true.
What is their relationship?
True.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd say that like in support of Dave a little bit. I'd say that we're all fairly inconsistent sometimes.
We love you, Dave.
Sometimes we go like, that's awesome. That's all you need to know. But other times I'm like, this is just, slop. This is trite slop. Yeah. And I'm an elitist and I feel scammed by this movie. But other times I'm like, fuck it. It's fun. I think that's a weird one for him to be like, come down hard.
Too silly for me.
To me, it's Michael Jackson's Ghosts.
That's the winner.
I could see someone finding that beloved.
That's number 28 for me because I hate Salem's Lot so 29. Much. I just use that to make a
Salem's
point.
Lot. I mean, Salem's Lot is not that high for me either. But yeah.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. That was fun. Fun episode. We'll be back in around a month with another one.
Love this show.
We haven't decided which one. I like to have it. But we didn't do our homework, so I won't force us to do it. One
of my favorite King short stories is Quitters Inc.
Oh yeah,
quitting smoking, and it was made only by an Indian filmmaker in, not English, and I can't find it, but I really want to cover that. The film, the 2-hour version of Quitters Inc. Monkey, we'll definitely cover Monkey, right?
We'll cover.
I think we should cover it right when it drops.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think we should see it in theaters and stuff. I think, and there's also another one coming out
Life
soon
of Chuck.
That already has come out internationally. The Life of Chuck with Tom Middleton, the Loki man, yeah,
Hiddleston.
And someone else. But that's The Life of Chuck is coming out. It already came out, I think, in the festival circuit, but it's going to hit theaters, I think, in the summer of this year, I believe. Those are two films that are new Stephen King adaptations that I think we'll probably cover as they come out.
Tom Puddlesman.